Are we live?
We are
We are
live.
live.
We are live.
It's been a minute since we've done this. Bear with us.
Because it said it failed to play video clip, and it just like
Really?
went out. Yeah,
played
No,
for
it
me.
worked on our side. Yeah.
it started fine, and then it just stopped. So I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah, welcome to season 6.
welcome to
technical
season
difficulties still
6.
exist.
Welcome back, everybody. We are back as well as we promised to bring you, of course, the best comic book show that we can possibly can, and it started off pretty bad, so we apologize about that. But nevertheless, in case you guys have never watched this before, my name is Mike Spider-Slayer from the YouTube channel Comic Book Corner 2.0. And then above me, I have two, and one is Comic Uno.
Hey guys.
And then the other one is a Brant Fowler from Only Good Comics.
What's up, everybody?
So yes, guys. So today we're going to start with the comic book news, and then we'll dive into this week's comic books and what our thoughts are behind them.
And this is a lot of the big news pieces that we missed. So if you're wondering, man, what did they think about the 2 months worth of comic stuff? We have it. We'll talk about DC All In. We'll talk about X-Men. We'll talk about Robert Downey Jr. We're gonna talk about it all. So let's start with the media pieces first. So we have the Robert Downey Jr. news that he's gonna be Dr. Doom. Everyone went crazy and didn't like the news. I'm of two sides. I get like the nostalgia aspect of like people don't like the idea of like, oh, all they could do is a one-trick pony, but when they do new things, it doesn't work. So I'm like, let's see if it's good. That's all I could really say. Cool. If it's great, I'm happy because I'm a Fantastic Four fan. If it's bad, there's been bad Marvel movies. I'm used to it, you know.
I'm just curious how they're going to do it. Like, obviously, nobody's going to be like, oh, he looks like Tony Stark. You know what I mean? So there's a reason they're doing it that way. And I'm curious to see how they're playing it. So,
yeah, I mean, listen, I didn't expect it. And when it was announced, I was like, wow, this is not bad. This is pretty cool. I'm fine with that. Like, I get it. It's like, yes, he's played Tony Stark. He's played Iron Man. And you're like, oh, to bring him back as Dr. Doom, like Brant said, there's got to be a purpose to it. So I'm excited, man. I really am. I'm not going to dog something that hasn't even happened yet, right?
Or you seen anything from?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to Minor Threats is getting a Netflix deal. Brant, you wanted to talk about it. I think I read one issue of that book, and that's about it.
Yeah, so this is the Patton Oswalt comic from Dark Horse, and it's like had spin-offs and stuff, and I just think that's pretty cool for Patton. I'm a big Patton Oswalt fan. I like his comedic presence, and so I'm glad to see his comic get realized in a show. So I'm excited to check it out. So it's an interesting concept. So.
Comic counted. No one seemed to blink at Brolin playing Cable after Thanos. I think it's more because Thanos was a computer generated thing and Cable wasn't. So I think it's a little bit easier to be like, oh, different characters. But
okay, Chris Evans was Human Torch and Captain America. So
yeah,
there
you go. You got different actors playing different things. So I think we just kind of get used to it for sure. All right, let's move on to Captain America trailer that came out, which came out a little while ago at this point. But I remember thinking it was what you'd expect from a Captain America movie. It was very not political, but more espionage side of things. I want to see Red Hulk. That's pretty much my thoughts. I didn't see the show. So other than that, I'm kind of going in blind.
Show was really good. I really like that show. Winter Soldier and Captain America or whatever it was, Falcon Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
So yeah, same. I watched it like kind of while we were talking because I was like, oh well, everything stayed the same because I forgot to watch the trailer. But so I was like watching it with the sound off a minute ago. But yeah, it's basically just a Captain America trailer. But like you said, Kat, I'm excited for Red Hulk. That's like what's hooked me with this. So
yeah, I thought Thunderbolts looked. I mean, I thought it was. Captain America. I thought it looked good. I mean, I liked seeing the Red Hulk at the end of it. I thought that was kind of cool. And I think that has a potential of being a pretty solid movie too. I mean, maybe not as good as like Deadpool and Wolverine, but still, I think this still has a very good possibility of being a good serious movie.
It was funny and I see Brant smiling. So I don't know if have you seen Deadpool
I've
and
not
Wolverine?
seen it yet because Lisa got COVID the week we were supposed to go see
man.
it.
I
Then
think
I
you'll
had to,
like it a lot. Go on.
Yeah. No, I was just getting, we have like $5 movies on Tuesdays here. And so last week she was sick with COVID. Today I had to like take her mom to an appointment that lasted like 3 hours. So it's not worked out yet. So but hopefully next week.
I think you'll really like it as a Marvel fan.
Yeah.
It was funny because I went to go see it with my friends who are like more DC fans. So I went out. That was a great movie. I loved it because this happened and that happened and nostalgia. And everyone was like, it was fine. I was like, what do you mean it was fine? This happened and that happened. And I think if you are a Marvel fan of a certain era, you'll really like it. And I am a Marvel fan of a certain era. So, and I'm sure, Mike, you might have felt the same way.
I loved it. I mean, it was funny, and that's what I liked about it. And you couldn't take it too seriously. Just the surprises that were in there makes it a movie that you can watch multiple times because there's so much that you could possibly miss. And the comedic aspects of it, like how hilarious it is, like you'll find yourself laughing, but then you wind up missing, some of the other things that are said, but it's just overall, it's a fun, good movie. Don't overanalyze it. Just go there and enjoy it. I mean, that's all I can say about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, even just as like a Marvel popcorn flick, I thought it just was paced better than a lot of the ones. Thoughts on Creature Commandos? We actually had that on the list and I didn't watch the trailer and I don't think any of us did. It's not something I'll watch the pilot, but I don't need to see the trailer.
I've never been into that in Marvel ever. So that's just not my thing.
Did you guys watch Batman Cape Crusader? If you haven't, don't. It's pretty boring.
That's what I figured. Yeah. It seemed boring to me. So I was like, nah, I don't need that.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't recommend it. I watched all of it for my other podcast I do, The Legendary Ladies. And we're like, let's watch all of Batman. And we all like, we're not doing that again because we like Harley. And it's like, go watch Harley if you want a fun Batman show. All right, let's get into the comics. There's a lot to talk about here. So let's just jump in. So Marvel is teasing a new era of Star Wars. They've been doing the Star Wars comics for a while. So they're doing something new now. So Mike, I think you want to talk about.
Sorry, I'm trying to. I forgot to pull up the doc.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So you're talking about the new Star Wars comics?
Yeah.
So it supposedly takes place after Return of the Jedi. So and in between The Force Awakens. So that's when all these stories take place now.
I mean, cool.
I think I'm gonna probably check it out just to see what it is. And because they've done pretty much everything possible between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi at this point. And there's a lot of stories I feel like you can tell between that time period. So it could be cool or it could not be cool. So I'll try it out and see.
We also have some X-Men stuff. Again, we'll definitely be talking about more X-Men, but they're going to be introducing a new generation of Sentinels. The one thing I will say is that you could tell with this new era, and again, we'll take a deeper dive on when we talk about the comics, that they want to still stay true to Krakoa and be like, okay, these are things that happen to Krakoa. We're not forgetting it, but also be like, let's reset. Let's do what we do best with the X-Men and reinvent it. So that's what they're doing with these Sentinels too. It's something that's ingrained in the X-Men. So why not do something with them?
Yeah.
I mean, for sure.
I couldn't open some of these news pieces for some reason that one
I think the
site is not
website's
working
down.
for me, Yeah.
It's been down for a day or so with our best of luck. So I will try to give you guys as much information because the article won't have it because the site's down.
Yeah.
So Apt is not working right now.
I mean, it sounds a little bit intriguing for me, so I'm definitely going to try it out. It could be cool. It could be one of those books that surprise you, or it could be just completely dumb. I don't know. It's like, I think it's one of the ones that can go either way. right? You'll read it and you'll be like, man, that was actually pretty good, And then you're gonna like, yeah, why did I read this book? So
All right, moving on to we'll save Spider-Man. We'll save Spider-Man for a little bit. G.I. Joe. There's a G.I. Joe series and is gonna be from the same creative team as Duke. I don't think this is a big information, but I mean, if you guys want to continue talking about it, go for it. But I think it's just gonna be continuing what Duke did, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's kind of springboarding from all those miniseries, mainly Duke and Cobra Commander, I would think. But yeah, it's finally we're getting the G.I. Joe team together and telling that cohesive story with that creative team. So I'm just excited for the expansion of that.
Joshua Williamson wrote it, so that's who you're going to expect to write that book. So I think you're going to be in for a fun series right there. So if you loved that G.I. Joe, like Cobra Commander and Duke, you're going to like this book, I think.
Right.
Moving on to, this is a quick one, Ben 10 and more series are coming in Dynamite. I just think it's really cool that Dynamite's doing these IPs, but also for like cult shows like Ben 10. I'll pick it up. I liked Ben 10 and I think it's putting Dynamite back on the map, but it's also interesting that that's kind of all they're doing is this like IP farm. So we'll see if it works out for them, because we know like other publishers have done that with IDW. And it didn't quite work out for them because you have to pay a lot for these licenses. So I don't know the behind the scenes of that, but it does seem like a lot of licenses that you have to pay for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched my share of Ben 10, but I don't know if I would be into picking up a comic book for this.
Yeah, same. It wasn't really my thing. I think my brother watched it more than I did.
I'll check out the first issue. I've been surprised by Lilo and Stitch. I've liked, but not surprised by. But Powerpuff Girls was pretty solid, so I enjoyed that first issue.
Yeah, that was pretty good. It was very in line with the cartoon, and I still like what they're doing with Thundercats. I know you dropped it, Mike, right?
But, Thundercats, but I'm reading Chitara.
Yeah, Chitara's good too. So
because I feel like it's better than Thundercats because it's like they focus on a character. And I feel like almost that's what Thundercats needed, was like, you want to focus on the characters a little bit instead of diving into all the action. And that's what Chitara does. It gets you to know like how she has this power set and how her relationship was with Lion-O and Tigra and all the other characters in there as well. Yeah. And so that's why I like that book.
Yeah. For sure.
Then it even changes. Says, I love the IPs. They gave Gargoyles, Darkwing Duck, Powerpuff Girls, Johnny Quest, Thundercats. Also good. And then if it's Ben 10 era when Gwen is using magic, then I'll read it. Otherwise, I'll watch the show, own the whole series. I think it's going to be the earlier Ben 10 from what it looked like from the art, but you never know. All right, moving on to I Heard Heart Skull Crushers is now an ongoing. I know you guys really like that title.
Yeah. It was good, man. Like the way it ended too was really good because obviously for I think Trini, I think it was her name. It was one of those things where it wasn't all cracked out to what she thought it was going to be, and it was kind of heartbreaking for her.
It was like the classic "Never Meet Your Heroes" kind of moment with that, and it would have been a nice ending or a nice ending to a volume 1. So to see it's going to continue from there, it's like, okay, that's really cool because even though it wrapped up, it still left it open, kind of almost cliffhangery.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun. It's a really fun series.
But I mean, that means that the story did well, so they can continue the story. So that's good news.
Yeah, I could see this end up being like a live action Netflix movie.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Boom, I feel like is definitely making moves to do more TV and movies. So that would make sense if they end up doing that. Tevia says, what IPs do they have left? Well, an IP, just for people in the audience, is just any intellectual property. So any intellectual property that exists in media is an IP. And so many. Anything that you could think of that has been created is an IP.
Yeah, you could do anything that's been out there.
That people would want to get the money for and be like, let's license it, and if that company has the money to do it, they'll do it.
Now, it's arguable if there are any popular IPs left, but there are plenty of IPs. But yeah.
No, I don't disagree on that.
Dynamite says Terminator, which Dynamite does have Terminator.
Yep. Yeah.
So they're getting ready to
releasing
release the Terminator comic book. Yeah.
Space Ghost is out right now, so they got a lot going on. That's true. Yeah, like File Daughter is an IP and my IP. Anything that's out there that is a creative thing is an IP that someone owns. All right, Penguin Random House buys Boom, and we've been getting a lot of changes from Boom. The interesting thing about this is that it's a distributor, so we'll see how that works out. It almost feels like double dipping in so many different ways, but a lot of times when these people buy things, you don't really see things change that much. But a lot of people have left Boom as well. Like the heads of Boom kind of left. So I think you're going to be seeing shifts. What I think is interesting, I feel like the shifts, which is interesting because we were just talking about IPs, it feels like they're shifting to more big creators get titles and make their IPs so they can make television shows instead of let's get Power Rangers and do more Power Rangers. That's what it seems like.
Right. Yeah, no, I would agree with that. They've made some big moves in the past several years, and they do have that first look deal and all that stuff. So it's interesting because a lot of companies are making big moves recent in like the past year. So it's just an interesting industry right now to watch and see what's happening. So
yeah, no,
I did not expect this though.
New. No, not at all. At least in our eyes, there wasn't the writing on the wall. So,
right,
it's interesting.
It all happened very quickly. Yeah, at least from this perspective. Yeah,
it definitely did. All right, let's get into. I wrote Batman and Ron year one.
I started to correct it, and I was like, "No, that's too funny. I gotta leave it."
No, we gotta keep Batman and Ron. I think it's Mark Wade and obviously these links are not working because of the website being down. Chris Samney and Mark Wade.
Team, yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm getting it. I've seen Batman and Robin 20,000 billion times, but if you got to create a team like that, I'm signed up.
Yeah, I started not to mark it, and then I looked it up on another site, and I was like, "Oh, it's Wade and Samney." Then I got to check it out because I love their Daredevil run.
Yeah, the Daredevil run was good, and then they did what's it called?
Oh,
Robert Kirkman's Firepower.
Oh yeah, Firepower.
Yeah, Firepower. Yeah.
Also, because I was looking up because the next topic is Iron Man. So there's a new creative team for Iron Man. I was seeing who the creative team was. It's Spencer Ackerman and Julius Otto. Julius Otto, I know, has done some stuff for Dynamite. Who is a solid artist. And Spencer Ackerman, I don't know much about. It looks like he might be more in like novels or television beforehand. The new Iron Man. Okay. I mean, I'll check out the first issue. Although Iron Man, which I'm sad to say, hasn't blown me away in a long time.
Well, I think it wrapped up nicely though. Like the last issue of it really was good with him and Emma and parting ways and she, obviously appreciated his help, and she used her powers to manipulate bad guys to get his money back. So he actually has all his money back now. And this series is kind of going to be, I forgot the details of the series, but I know you're going to get like Acclimax and Roxxon back, and he's creating, of course, more armor and stuff like that. But there's something going on there. I totally forgot, but I'm on board with it.
I like that run of Iron Man, but I think I liked it because of the connection to the Krakoa stuff and Emma Frost and all that stuff. Without that part of it, I don't know if I would have liked it as much, but that's kind of hard to say because that was the story.
I agree.
Yeah. So I'll definitely check this out. I always check out new Iron Man. I just looked up that writer too. They're also writing Waller versus Wildstorm that comes out in October. So
okay, and I think that's is that a Black Label or is it just a regular miniseries?
It's Black Label.
That's what I thought. So if you guys want to get a gist of what their writing's like, go check that one out. Speaking of Black Label, I believe this is a Black Label book. Green Lantern Dark is coming out. The reason I want to talk about it is I think it's really cool that the Black Label is just doing books that aren't Superman and Batman. So I would check this out.
Yeah, and it's stuff that you're like, wait a minute, this should be in continuity, but it's not. I don't know. maybe, I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? But I'm very picky with the Black Label stuff. But I do, like you said, like that they're kind of branching out outside of those, main properties. So.
Yeah,
and I'm glad that they're not those big magazine sizes anymore.
Yeah,
that was definitely annoying. Any other thoughts on that, Mike?
Nah.
All right, we're gonna move on to Ultimate Hawkeye and Doctor Strange. I think they're definitely expanding quickly without it feeling too connected yet. I so far have only really liked Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm reading X-Men, I'm reading the Ultimates, but they're not ones where I'm like, wow, the Ultimate Universe. The only one that I feel like, wow, the Ultimate Universe is Spider-Man. So them expanding, they're doing it quickly with characters. I don't know if they're the right ones, if I'm being honest. Like, I think a Hulk would be probably more interesting, somebody with a big franchise. But they picked Doctor Strange and Hawkeye, where I feel like those are characters that don't even sell that well in the regular continuity.
Yeah, they are. It's definitely odd choices, unless they're doing something completely different with them. I couldn't look at that news story, so I don't know if it's like which version of Hawkeye this is, or if it's a brand new Hawkeye.
It's a different Hawkeye.
Yeah, it looks like.
Yeah,
is it Native American?
Yeah,
I think it's a Native American Hawkeye.
Yeah,
so that could be interesting. I don't know. Doctor Strange. It's like if this was during like when the movies were coming out that they were in, maybe it would made more sense to push those characters. But right now, it's an odd choice, but I'll give them a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try it too. I don't have an issue too much with the Ultimate Universe. I feel like for me, the weakest book is Black Panther, just because I don't have a strong connection to Black Panther as much as some other characters. I'm still reading Ultimate X-Men, and I think they're starting to move along in it. Do I think it's a slow burn? Absolutely. But they do call themselves X-Men now. They do call themselves mutants now, based off of what happened in the last issue. So I'm curious to see what the development of that book will be. But when it comes to the Ultimate X-Men or Ultimate books, I'll definitely try them for sure.
Yeah, no, I don't see besides Doctor Strange, which I don't know if I'll pick up. I don't see myself not getting Ultimate Hawkeye. Infamous Mike Manhattan says, we shouldn't those characters that don't sell get a chance to shine. Yeah, definitely. But I think they should have a chance to shine in the main universe a thing that has been kind of proven. The Ultimate Universe is growing. So I feel like they need to have the powerhouses before they get the smaller franchises, but that's kind of just how I see it. All right, moving on to the Try Guys have a webtoon. I just think that's cool to get different types of people. Try Guys is a YouTube channel that has millions and millions of people who watch it from different age ranges. So I think that's a great way to get people into comic books. So that's why I marked it down.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Lisa's a big Try Guys fan. She watches them a lot. So we watched like the creation of the comic together. They did a video about that, and then I had read the webtoon right before that. So it's pretty cool. It's cool seeing how they came together to kind of create it while he was sick. The comic guy was actually sick, so they made the comic about him being sick, which I thought was fun. So just goofy fun, and like you said, it was a good intro to people getting into comics. So.
All right, moving on. I'm skipping some DC stuff because the Spider-Man DC stuff we'll leave to last. Naruto's getting a mini series with the Ninja Turtles. Again, goes back to that's a really cool way to get people to pick up comic books. I mean, there's so many Naruto fans out there that would definitely pick that up.
Yeah, I'm going to pick it up, and I'm not even a Naruto fan. Like, my brother was obsessed with Naruto back in the day. He loved it, but it was just I was never into anime. So I never really watched it, but it's like, it's Team T, it's Naruto, and that sounds cool to me. So I'm definitely going to pick that up. So.
All right, Mike, you wanted to talk about Gail Simone writing She-Spawn. Gail Simone's
cool. I think Gail Simone all of a sudden is getting all kinds of work, and listen, I
think it's because she took a break to do TV and movies, and then she's like, I miss comics, and I'm going to do everything comics right now.
Right. So I've been wondering why She Spawn has not had her own comic yet. So I think it will be cool for Gail Simone to write it. And I mean, I don't have too much to say about it, but I think she's a really cool character. And, you know, she's been kind of on the team and she hasn't had her own solo series yet. So I'm going to definitely check it out. Especially, I'm sure it's going to be, I would think, $2.99, just like all the other ones. So
I'd be surprised if it's not. That'd be crazy. That's where they start. They're like, you know what? $3.99. She Spawn. All right, moving on to Psylocke getting their own series. So Brant, you're a big Psylocke fan. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, when you go with these solo X characters, it's always like a crapshoot whether it's going to be good or not. But I am a big Psylocke fan. She was one of my favorites from the '90s and stuff like that. So, and this is like the Quantum version, right? So it's. I just think she's a cool character visually. She's really kind of grown over the past few years. We get to see her talking more instead of just standing around looking pretty, which is what she was in the 90s. So it's much better now that she's an actual character, a realized character with, you know, all that stuff. So, we don't know a whole lot about her, though, still to this day. So I'm hoping it kind of dives into, I just lost my earbud somewhere. I hope it kind of dives into her past a little bit more and kind of shows more of her personality. So we'll see.
Another X character getting her own series, Laura Kinney, X-23, which we all love X-23 here. She's also in NYX, and Erica Schultz, who's been pretty solid for Marvel, is writing the book. So excited for this one.
Yeah. I mean, she's had her own book before. We all liked it. I think Tom Taylor wrote it, and you know, he introduced Gabby and then all the other clones. And some people might say, well, that wasn't a great book, but I thought he added a lot of personality to her. And I like that series. I thought it was actually really well done. And I'm excited now to see this next chapter with her. I think she's a well-established character to where I think it's fine that she has her own series, you know. She's Laura. She's not Wolverine. And that's what I like. Like, she is different, you know. It's what I had a problem with was when we were in the X-Men book and we had the old Laura and then the current Laura, or the reincarnated Laura. So at least now we have the old one died, right? The old one died and the reincarnated one's still living right now. So thank God they got rid of that. We didn't need that part of it. So, but I'm excited for this too.
Yeah, I am too. I really love that character, and I like Erica Schultz's writing, so I think it's a good pairing. Erica Schultz is writing the Daredevil one right now, right? Elektra.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, she is.
So so hopefully, it's a good fit with that character, but I'm excited for it.
This is interesting. So Jeff Lemire is writing 2 DC books coming up: Absolute, Flash, and JSA. So one's, I think, going to be more in the main continuity, and the other one's an Absolute book, which we will talk about the Absolute books. I love Jeff Lemire, so that's cool. I mean, JSA has been delayed a lot, so we need somebody else on it. I think. No, Justice League has Carol. I was trying to figure out who's on JSA for this one, but I don't remember. And Absolute Flash, we'll talk more about the Absolute stuff in general, but it's cool that they're doing this whole different universe.
Yeah, I mean, it's Jeff Lemire, so I'm going to check it out. You know, do we know who the artist is on these books?
Yeah, I could find out. So JSA, Jeff Lemire series artist is Diego Ortega, who I think did some stuff for Marvel. I actually want to say it was some Laura stuff, but I don't remember. I feel like it was something with Tom Taylor. And then Absolute Flash artist is Nick Robles. I don't know. I'm not familiar with their stuff.
I'm not familiar with either one of those.
Oh well.
Diego, I've definitely seen their name before, and I'm pretty sure it's with Marvel.
Well, it's Jeff Lemire writing it, so I'm have high hopes for
it. Nick Robles, Nice House on the Lake.
Oh, interesting. That'll be very interesting.
That is very interesting because that fits Lemire's style.
No.
because it's like very much like an Andrea Sorrentino thing. If you remember Nice House on the Lake, it's just like it's very like
it's very dark.
It's very dark. You can't make out characters' faces all that well.
Yeah.
Not a lot. It will definitely seem like be a darker book, maybe.
Yeah. And Diego did the Jay Garrick Flash series.
Oh, that's also. Oh, did they also do that Stargirl series?
Maybe. Wasn't that the same art that? Yeah, maybe.
I think so. I think they did this, and which is pretty solid. It's a bit cartoony,
Yeah.
but I think it'll work for that.
Right.
Moving on to some Marvel stuff. We got One World Under Doom coming in 2025, which one thing I don't love about comics is when it ties in so heavily to the movies, but then also when the comics don't tie into the movies not enough. I like when you have a Spider-Man book on the racks if there's a Spider-Man book, but I don't like when it feels forced that an event is happening because a movie's happening. I think a great example of that was that Blade event, and then the Blade movie never came out. And it's just like, oh, great, we have this Blade event that's not that great. And the Doom event kind of feels very similar, where it's just like, Dr. Doom's going to be big. We need to introduce Dr. Doom again.
Yeah, for sure. I like you said, if you have a Green Arrow show on TV, have a Green Arrow series that people can go read, but they don't have to tie together. Yeah, so that's my preference as well, and it does scream like, hey, we got to put the spotlight on this character, so you'll go watch them in the theater. And it's I don't know, the logic doesn't work for me because comic fans are going to go see the movie anyway, and regular people are just going to see the movie because it's a cool movie and they're not swayed by the comic. So it really makes no sense, but whatever.
I mean,
hopefully it's good.
I mean, in all sense though, too, like I'm not even worrying about it because the movie's not going to be out forever. So we're going to get this event, and by the time the movie comes out, it's going to be a while. So I'm just looking forward to Dr. Doom being in a comic book again, because in all reality, he really hasn't been in very much. I think he's been actually underutilized. So I think for him to be in this event, I think might be pretty good. So it's better than vampires, in my opinion.
I mean, speaking of vampires, that's the last place we saw him because he saved the world, remember?
Exactly. He was the one that it triggered. This event triggered this event.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the one.
He's a closer.
Comics.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's it. I stopped reading Blood Hunt, so I didn't even know that. So that's new information to me.
He's the new Sorcerer Supreme because of it. Yeah.
I mean, I guess that makes sense for what we've seen with this character in the past, but it's not something I need to see with this character.
I mean, the way he became the Sorcerer Supreme was actually an interesting read, because he kind of pulled a fast one over Doctor Strange, and so now he doesn't have to relinquish the Sorcerer Supreme anymore because he is it.
It was very clever because I'm going to spoil the end of Blood Hunt for anybody that hasn't read it, so beware. But it was clever because Doom had the way to cure the darkness, to stop the darkness and bring the light back, and which would stop the vampires, etc. But in order to do so, he had to be the Sorcerer Supreme, and he would not tell Doctor Strange how to do it. So Doctor Strange had to relinquish it on the deal that he would give it back once he fixed the world. But there's the caveat: he doesn't believe the world's fixed yet, so he gets to keep it.
Yeah, he stopped one thing, but the world is still not fixed. And then Doctor Strange is like,
yeah,
he didn't know what to say. He's like, God damn.
He's like, you got me.
Yeah,
darn it.
So it's a very Doom-like thing to do,
Yeah.
So
that's like not impressed.
No, not impressed at all. I'm not. I will read the first issue of that book, good. But I don't. Just give me some good character stuff, which it sounds like they're trying to do with Dr. Doom. It's not my thing. Speaking of things connected to, I guess, Marvel, is the TVA is continuing, and we have now Spider-Gwen. Have you been reading Spider-Gwen? The TVA has been a heavy part, and now they're just doing a whole spinoff, which is so interesting because Spider-Gwen's been out for like 2 issues, and they're like, she needs a spinoff now. I'm like, I don't. Let's just. I think we just
I
need the
dropped
one
the
book.
book.
Honestly, you dropped it. I
dropped
don't
Yeah.
blame you because you're not a hardcore Spider-Gwen fan. I don't think it's
Yeah.
blowing me away, but I think it's much better than what we've been getting with Spider-Gwen.
Yeah, I like it. I don't love it, but I like Spider-Gwen, so I'm continuing to read it. It's just the oddest character to tie into this whole TVA thing. It's just so weird, and it's like we need to put the TVA somewhere. Well, Spider-Gwen ain't doing nothing. Let's do it there. That's what it feels like.
It's like Miss Marvel's death in Spider-Man.
Right.
Yeah. I just don't feel like I feel like she's suffering now through the Miles Morales situation. I really am at the point to where we need to focus just on Peter and don't worry about all the other Spider characters in the 616 and just have the other characters that were supposed to be in other worlds, have them in other worlds. For me, I think that's just an easier write because you can do what you want in these different worlds. And now that
and
they're
make
in
better stories.
Right. And now that they're in the 616, it's like,
right?
Well, what are we going to do different now that is going to have Spider-Gwen have her own identity, or Miles Morales have his own identity?
Well, it goes back to the supporting characters too. Like they ripped her whole supporting characters away. And now it's like,
just like they did with Miles too.
Yeah. And Miles, like, even though he had his 616 supporting characters, they're never around. He's suffering from the Peter Parker syndrome now because you never see Ganke, like, ever now.
No.
Which is sad because that's such a big part of Miles.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about Spider-Man and where he's been, but like it's not that they're doing anything better with him.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah.
They don't know how to use supporting characters at all, maybe. Maybe that's the issue with all these comics, is that supporting characters don't exist. Let's move on to West Coast Avengers. Jared Dugan writing another book here and some cool characters. We've got War Machine, Iron Man, Firestar, Spider-Woman. I'm here. I'm good for this.
I'm on board on this.
Yeah,
bad boy.
this seems cool.
I saw this news and I'm like, Firestar.
It's like easy, right?
And West Coast Avengers is something that like I read when I was super young. I loved it, and being there having elements of it, like certain characters, War Machine and Iron Man, I think is really cool, and I'm just on board. And let's just hope that since Jerry Duggan wrote Iron Man, he kind of has something going for him there. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Anytime there's a West Coast Avengers, just because it's something different. You're not dealing with the whole New York skyline and all that stuff. And it's just it seems like there's always different kinds of threats on that side when they play with the West Coast. So I'm hoping it's fun. I remember that era too. It's like West Coast Avengers, then it became Force Works and it got really weird. Yeah. Then it got canceled. But
yeah.
Moving on to some Marvel stuff. Speaking of new spider heroes, we got Spider-Girl, but not the one you think, and a female Deadpool. I don't know. There was a part of me that I was like, I should check this out, but I really don't like Spider-Boy that much. So I'm like, maybe I shouldn't. And then Deadpool honestly has been sounding interesting. So maybe it's a jumping on point that I might want to check it out. And that does seem like a jumping on point. The Spider-Girl one, I don't know.
I think Cody Ziegler does a great job at kind of like a good family dynamic here and him intertwining his daughter into his life.
Mm-hmm.
You got Taskmaster in this book as well, and they're trying to get off the ground being like this heroes for hire type of situation. And we find out in this comic that his daughter has powers like her father, and Taskmaster's actually kind of training her. And now
Deadpool is it in?
I'm wanting to say like 6, maybe 5 or 6.
So it's a little bit to catch up on, but
yeah,
I mean, it's cool. Sounds good.
It's good, man. It's good. It started off a little slow for me, but then as it's gotten better. The good thing about it is that it doesn't overdo the jokes in the fourth.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah. Because you're balancing that with that family dynamic and that drama as well. So yeah.
I know Jerry Dugan's run did. So that makes sense that maybe they're trying to draw some lines from that.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's go into Ultimate Black Cat is going to be introduced. That's cool. We all like Black Cat here.
She looks so much like Catwoman.
I know, especially I was gonna say especially the Zoe Kravitz one, but Zoe Kravitz didn't have long hair in the movie.
No,
but yeah, it's a very big Catwoman thing, and we'll see.
Just like the outfit, there's no white fur. It's just like the solid black, leather kind of look.
She's got hair like Elektra.
Yeah, you know what, Elektra hair for sure.
Yeah. So
I'm interested because obviously Black Cat is usually a love interest of Spider-Man, and Mary Jane's married, and what's Black Cat gonna hold? And honestly, I think it's gonna be what we've seen to the nowadays of Black Cat, where it's gonna be they're just gonna all be friends, or Black Cat will be a homewrecker. Maybe I don't know if they do that.
Crazy.
Could be.
Oh yeah, that would be hilarious.
Yeah, be interesting. I'm curious to see what they do with it for sure.
Me too. Yeah, I mean it's a fun character.
So going back to the real quick, because I meant to ask this, which Spider-Girl is it in that series you were talking about?
I think it's a new one. I think it's just a new.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
It's
didn't
just
see
like
that
a
story, so
Spider-Boy related character. So it's a young character,
gotcha.
like a 9-year-old,
Gotcha.
however old Spider-Boy is.
Gotcha. Okay.
He seems 9. He doesn't seem too old.
No. Yeah.
All right. Going into Negasonic Teenage Warhead issue 1 is going to be collected into physical books. I like when these digital books are collected because then I get to read it. This seems like a rom-com thing, and obviously with Deadpool, that's why they did it. And I think we need more comics like that, so I'll pick it up.
I just want to say something about this. Manhattan, nobody's ever thinking of Halle Berry Cap.
No,
Please, no.
definitely not. I don't even think she looks similar either.
No.
All right. Moving. This is cool. I'm surprised you guys. Well, I guess because of the writer, but Tom King is writing Black Canary. I'm kind of interested in that. I want to see what's because I really I've been liking his Wonder Woman, so I want to see what he's going to do with Black Canary. It looks cool.
He's going to spend an hour talking about her one page.
I want to see him spend an hour talk about her scream. Like I'm interested to see how he does that.
My vocal cord.
I know you're not a fan, Mike, but if he can do with her what he's done with Wonder Woman, I'm on board for it. So
me too. I've been enjoying what he's been doing. He is. You do need to read that comic first most of the time, but I like.
I mean, I've been reading it as of late, right? So like. And I definitely see it's just like a hot and cold type of thing for me when it comes to that. And I'll be reading
I get that.
The Absolute Power one that's coming out also because Diana's teaming up with Damian in that.
Yeah.
That should be fun.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about all the Absolute Power stuff. Silent Night is returning. That was a really surprising Christmas DC book from last year. So I'm glad that's returning.
So good though. Yeah. I'm happy to see that return.
A book we didn't get to talk about because we were gone, and I'm just gonna go to a separate topic for a second. But I don't know why I thought about it. But the Black, White, and Red Spider-Man, surprisingly really good. Just wanted to
you like
it?
Yeah,
I really liked it. I thought it was really good. You didn't like it, Mike?
I don't know. You read one, you read them all. To me, it's just like there was.
I haven't read one in a long time, so I was
there was the one story at the end which was kind of good, with him with the suit, and then artistically there was a couple good stories in there too. But to me, it's just like I'm not buying issue 2 though. I just it's just too much for me with these Black, Red, and whatever stories,
This is the first one I've read out of all of them. I know they've released 10,000 of them, but I thought the art was really good. I thought the stories were cohesive. I will be the only ones reading issue 2, but I really liked it.
I just
liked it.
Yeah. I'm glad you liked it too. I tried one of those like a long time ago, and I just never picked them up anymore. So.
Oh, that makes sense. They are still anthologies, so they're not necessary to read. All Alex Segura is writing a question mini. Love seeing what Alex is doing, and I just want to mention it as I'm friends with Alex, but then also it's really cool because he writes so many like detective noir stuff. So to see him write Renee is just kind of cool.
Yeah, no, Alex is a good guy. I like Alex, and I like his writing. So
awesome. Also on a note of DC Comics, Black Lightning is finally getting a book, and this goes back to this weird thing when Black Lightning was on TV. They didn't really have a book for very long, and now years later, they have the perfect book for what those TV fans would have wanted. I'm trying to see who's writing it. Brandon Thomas, which I think he's written a couple DC stuff. But yeah, I'll pick it up. I like Black Lightning. I like his daughters, and again, it's just weird timing, though.
Yeah, it is really weird timing.
Right,
hopefully it's good.
No, I hope so too. Any other Black Lightning thoughts, or else we'll run down some more DC titles because we have a lot. All right, we got. Let's do Justice League Unlimited by Mark Waid and Dan Mora.
That's all you had to say for me.
Yeah, I always
Mora. Yeah,
it's like the biggest book on the planet for me when it comes to DC right there. How long has it been since we had Justice League book?
Oh, yeah, no, really long time. And I like that it's not just your standard Justice League book. It does feel like that cartoon where it's like, we're going to expand it to these characters. I'm like, that's really cool. So I'm also really excited about that.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's
so
cool.
That's all we need to know. We're just going to all pick it up. All right, another
was cool.
Yeah. Thanks, Comic Book Prince. The Mob Princess book looks good. Thank you. I really appreciate it. We will talk about Mob Princess in a bit. But super proud of that book. So go check it out. But I'll give some links in the comments. Going to Cassandra Cain is getting a Batgirl series. I'm really excited for this. I'm a big Cassandra fan, and it's so funny because like I think when you're a fan of any character, usually like have a fan favorite Batgirl or fan favorite Spider-Man or fan favorite Batman. And I do not feel that way about Batgirl. I love all three of those characters. Obviously Steph's my favorite, but I love all three of the characters. And I am so cool with Cassandra having the time to shine. Like, I think she's a really cool character. Just as Stephanie's been having time to shine and Barbara has time to shine, let's see more Cassandra. I can't wait to see what this book's going to be.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Yeah. But I was going to ask you that, like, who the creative team was. But I feel the same way about the Batgirls. I love them all.
So you're excited for this one in particular too?
Yeah. She might be my favorite just because she's so quiet and yet somehow quick-witted. It's fun to hopefully, and she's grown so much over the years to where she's not just like one word here and there. She's actually got, a really cool personality. So if they can kind of tap into that in the book, that'd be really fun.
And Lady Shiva as well will be interesting. I think I saw a cover with her in like the shadows. I'm like, okay, we'll probably get her. Mike, are you going to try Cassandra Cain or are you not going to try Cassandra Cain?
I'll try it. I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot of stuff getting ready to come out. I mean, I think it's going to be probably a little bit overwhelming. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So between all the Ultimate books coming out, DC with all their Absolute books are coming out, DC All In with all new jumping on points. I mean, there's a lot going on here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like you got to be very particular about what you're going to buy and got to make sure that, make your decisions quick here. Be like, hey, this is good. This is not good. Otherwise, it's going to cost you a lot.
And that does allow us to jump into our main topic here, which is All In. Well, one of the many main topics here. All In and how we feel about it. The new creative teams. There's all these Absolute books, Absolute Green Lantern, Absolute Superman. We could probably break down the creative teams, but I feel like it's been a little time. So I think let's talk about overall our thoughts on it. I'm really excited. I think DC needed something like this. I hope it's great. And that's all I could kind of really say about it. I hope it's everything they learned from the New 52, the good stuff they learned from the New 52. obviously it is similar to the Ultimate Universe, where it's like it's a different universe, but they look like cool books, and I'm gonna try out as much as I can. I can't promise I'll try it all out, like you said, Mike. There's a lot of books. Even this month, I feel like my haul has been like 15 books, 16 books, and that's a lot more than I usually get.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
mine's been huge too, man. And it's just
Mhm.
like, think about it, if you have all these DC books that are all new jumping on points, it's like, for the most part, you might want to give them a try, because that's the perfect opportunity to do it, And then when you
Yeah.
have Absolute, the new universe right there, and then you got new Batman, new Superman, new Wonder Woman, so there's 3 books right there. And a lot of these books are like $5 a piece, man. So it's like they're super expensive on top of it. So, I'll try it. I'll give it an issue at least, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, same for me. It's like it's going to be so many books, but I'm excited about it and I'm curious about it. And these creative teams seem pretty solid. So I think for like the average comic fan, maybe pick up the ones that you're a big fan of the character. Try those out first.
Sure.
But for us, we tend to try a lot more than most people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I'm excited to do. I'm excited to try them out.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about Spider-Man. So Spider-Man's got a new creative team. Last we left off the podcast, we were saying that run was over. Now we actually know who's doing it. It's Joe Kelly. And there's a new arc, A Deaths of Spider-Man. And we're going to talk about if we like this or not. We won't talk about Amazing Spider-Man yet, because there was an issue that came out. We'll talk about that in a second. But when we talk about the top 5, but I don't know how to feel about Joe Kelly. I feel like I really want something new for Spider-Man, and he's been a writer on Spider-Man for a billion years. So, but I remember I was talking to you, Mike. It's just like, well, he knows Spider-Man, so that's great. Maybe he'll do a great job. But I don't know, man. I've been burned too many times. That doesn't mean I won't have an open eye when it comes out, but I'm not excited for it.
It's like, and I'll let you expound, Mike. But it's like I'm kind of excited because Joe Kelly has written some really good Spider-Man books. I remember those Rhino issues still to this day. They ring in my brain. Every time I think of good Spider-Man stories, I'm like, oh, those Rhino issues. And that was Joe Kelly. So it's like, if it's that good, but can you be consistently on that level? And I don't want to like blow it up to where it's like, oh, Nick Spencer's on Spider-Man and then Nick Spencer's run. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
It's like, I'm trying to temper my excitement, but at the same time, it's like, you said, Kat, he has done Spider-Man before. Maybe it would have been better to get something fresh, or maybe it's good to get somebody that really knows the character. So I don't know, but I'm cautiously optimistic about it, I guess I'll say.
I am just happy that the run is going to be over and we're getting this story. This is kind of like the Beyond story arc that we got when Nick Spencer left.
I mean,
that's what I can say this is, right? And so, and I feel when this is over, I think then we're going to get a new creative team. That's my thought process behind it. So,
you mean Joe Kelly's run is going to be the Beyond? I thought you mean what we're dealing with now.
Yeah, okay. Joe Kelly's run is the Beyond story arc. That's
I could see that.
You know what I'm saying?
And he's not a superstar writer enough to be the next.
I don't think he will be. I think he's the bridge between the two, and I think there's.
And he was the bridge back in the day too. That's what his run was. Was that he?
Right.
It was between Dan Slott's run and Dan Slott's run.
Yeah.
So like, the bridge was between 2 Dan Slotts.
I wouldn't be surprised if he does this Doom story, this death story,
right?
And then he does some stuff after that, maybe even to the point to where they get to 1,000, and then there you go. There's your relaunch because we're at 950 right now, so we got 50 issues to go.
Tevye brings up a good point. I did forget that Joe Kelly wrote the Mary Jane sister thing. So.
Oh, really? Interesting. That was a long time ago. Yeah, look, we'll see. We'll review it. and we'll talk about it. But that's actually all the news. We did a pretty good job. Record time for how much news we had to catch up on, and we did
So
in
much
less than
news.
an hour. That was a marathon.
Next week,
If y'all
we'll have,
saw our doc, it's like 3 times the news we normally have. But
yeah, next week we'll have like 3 news pieces. This is
Right.
like 2 months worth of news here.
Yeah.
So sorry if the news was a little older and we knew about all this news, but we wanted to give our quick, brief opinion about it at least.
Yeah.
Get you guys caught up on kind of what we were thinking about it.
And we're sorry it was quick because obviously you couldn't spend 10 minutes on each news piece. So another week we would have broken down every DC title, but A, it was old news, and B, we would be here all night, so we wouldn't do that. But before we jump into the comics, I do want to talk about some Kickstarters I got going on. One was mentioned already, so I'm gonna let's do entire screen. I think I think you do window share, so I think that's how that works. I'm sharing, I think. Nope. Yes, I am. Okay, so we got Mob Princess, which is my newest series. It's an unprepared daughter of a mob boss inherits the whole empire with the humor of 6 Feet Under and the introspection of The Sopranos. So if you enjoy mob stories, this is a twist on it. I am born and raised on Staten Island. I used a lot of my influence of living in Staten Island for this book. It was actually a TV script I wrote like 5 years ago, and I was like, you know what, would like to make it a comic. So that's what this is about. We also have another Kickstarter. If you're not going to New York Comic Con and you want to get our exclusive cover for the Ever Afterverse, go check out this Kickstarter. It is Beast and Snow, our fairy tale Snow White vampire book, and Belle's a werewolf. And then that's connecting to Nightmare in Wonderland. It's exactly what you think. It's the Nightmare in Wonderland. So go check that one out and check out all the Kickstarters. I will have links in the comments.
Speaking of Nightmare in Wonderland, I got my copy in the mail today. I can't show it because I can't show it, but I had to get it in the mail today. So thank you. I'm looking forward to reading it.
Thank you. No, I'm happy you got it. It's been fulfillment city over here, so I'm very happy you got it. It's been a lot of fulfillment, and that's our lives now, which is good because that means we're selling a lot of comics, but it also means we're selling a lot of comics and we're shipping a lot of comics. But yeah, go check out all those books. We're super proud of them. And we are going to move on to the comics. Believe it or not, in a week where there's a lot of news, there's also a lot of comic books.
Yep. Then we'll go through it pretty quickly, I think. I will do our best. All right. So let's kick it off with right away a book that Kat doesn't read anymore.
I dropped it this issue. I know.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
Transformers issue 11. All right, Brant. So here we go. This was a lot. There's a lot going on in this particular issue. You know, a lot of story threads going on. And you get kind of introduced to Ultra Magnus really for the first time as he's coming off of being tortured, which was tough. Alita 1 is pissed off at Prime for leaving them behind. We got the Earth being stolen of its resources. I think personally, my opinion here, I think Soundwave is going to kill Shockwave or do something because he will not restore Ravage for him. He's been asking him for about 3 or 4 issues now, and he kind of shoves them to the side. And I think Soundwave is going to, first he took out Starscream, and now he's going to take out Shockwave. But the end of this issue, I thought was kind of funny because Ultra Magnus, I don't think gets any respect. He goes through the portal, getting ready to battle. He sees Shockwaves, he transforms and rolls out.
I know. That was hilarious. I mean, I've never been a huge Ultra Magnus fan anyway.
Me either.
He rubs me the wrong way. And so seeing that is like, it was kind of funny, but at the same time, it was like, man, there's dissension on both sides because you got people doubting Optimus left and right. You got the whole thing between Shockwave and Soundwave going on. And then eventually Megatron's going to come back in that picture as well. It's funny that you drop it because I think next issue is the last issue of this arc. But
oh, really?
Yeah.
But the book's still going. So I had to drop it somewhere.
No, I know. I just thought you'd stick out the arc, but I understand it's getting a little more transformery and less focused on like the human drama and stuff.
The first arc, I love that human drama. And then ever since then, they haven't really been focusing on it. And I was like, I don't know if this is for me anymore.
Right, like they touched on a little bit of the Carly and Spike stuff in this issue, but very little. It's like one
Yeah.
panel each or something like that. So I wish they would get back to that a little bit too. But I understand like they're introducing new Transformers, and you got to kind of play with that a little bit. So as a Transformers fan, I enjoyed it because of the conflict, because you don't often see conflict in the Autobots specifically, and
Yeah,
so
there's conflict
playing with
within
that.
them.
Yeah, exactly. Like you've got Alita and RC kind of on that side, and then some of the others are kind of, and then Ultra Magnus, that whole thing. So it's everything's falling apart on that side, which I think is really interesting. There's always dissension on the Decepticon side, because with villains they're always like trying to one up, and everybody's trying to be the leader and all that stuff. But yeah, so I thought it was a pretty decent issue, but I would like to get back to some of that. Stuff
I think they will. I think probably after this issue, they probably might get back after issue 12. They'll probably get back to that a little bit more, which I would like to see. But I do like how emotional this book is for robots, where I feel like we don't see that. We didn't see that in previous iterations of when this comic was out.
No, because I'm sorry, Kat. Go ahead.
No, it is a comment. So finish your thought.
Okay.
I'll read the comment.
I was just going to say, because they're alien robots and you don't think of them as sentient, even though we know they are sentient, it's just, that's not often played with how like human like they can be. And this series has done that, very well. So that's all.
Right.
There's a question from Siggy Fredo. What is the best comic to read right now? Geiger or Kill All Immortals, or something different? It's funny that they mentioned Geiger and Kill All Immortals, because I think they're such different books, and I think we would have different answers. You guys might say Geiger. I actually like Kill All Immortals. I think it's a pretty solid series. What's the best comic out right now? I don't know if this is the week to talk about it, but maybe next week we'll talk about what's the best comic.
I think obviously it's all opinionated, but if I had to go with something, I mean, for me, it's Rook Exodus. That is,
you do like that book.
One of my favorite books right now. I mean, and it's still fairly new.
A book we didn't talk about on this podcast. I'm loving Zatanna. I think that book is
that's a good book. Yeah,
it
is a good book too. Yeah,
I think it's a certain style though when it comes to like. I think for certain people on the artwork, like I get why they use that type of artwork in this book, but I think not everyone is going to like that style of artwork. But
it's
I like I think it's good.
Spider-Woman way back in the day for the pregnant arc. It's the same artist there. But it's a little bit more artsy fartsy when it comes to the art. But if you like character driven stuff, and I think it's a great book because it's very new reader friendly. If you've never read Zatanna before, you can read it. But if you're a big Zatanna fan, it doesn't forget who the character is. And I think it does a good balance of that. But Brent, you're going to mention.
Well, I mean, I like all those books that we just talked about. So Geiger is solid. I like All Immortals a lot. I think I might like it better than Geiger too.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Just it's my kind of story, I think. And it's only been 2 issues, but I think they've been really strong issues so far. But Geiger is, Rook Exodus though is my favorite Ghost Machine title of all the ones they put out so far. So, and that's one of my favorite books on the stands right now as well. So.
Micah says Black Crocodile is really disturbing. I am really sad about this, but I had to drop that book this week because there was just too many freaking titles and it's been a slow burn. So I'm like, I need to drop something.
It's a pretty messed up book, just because does deal with mental health. So it's I think, very relatable book. The person, the main character, is like supposedly supposed to be on meds, and you kind of get to see what he's seeing when he's not on his medication and he's doing things that he's not supposed to do. So it is kind of a disturbing book in very many ways.
I'm behind on it, so I think I read the first 2 and I haven't caught up yet. So.
Okay. Are we good on Transformers, Brant? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's, before we talk to Spider-Man, before we talk about Spider-Man, let's talk about Action Comics. Issue 1068. This is a book that doesn't have anything to deal with what's going on in the DC universe. This is just a story that Gail Simone is writing right now. That's like a Silver Age story. They're fighting off an alien invasion. Yes, we've seen that a billion times, but it's done pretty well. I like how the characters are written here. And then I'm sure Kat likes the Rainbow Rowell,
Love the Rainbow story
with Lois Clark, with her being the boss of him, and he's having a tough time dealing with that situation at hand.
Yeah, I'll there's some questions that we'll answer in a second, but yeah, the Gail Simone stuff is pretty solid. Like you said, it's not in continuity, but it's a fun enough story. But yeah, I love the Rainbow stuff. I think it's honestly a different angle for Lois and seeing what it means to be editor-in-chief, which I really liked. So I think it's a pretty solid book. I like that Action Comics is now, here's an all-star creative team, do what you want with it instead of whatever was happening before. I think it's a better way to do the book. Here's some questions. Comic Counts. Is anyone else excited for Hyde Street from Ghost Machine? Yeah, those are the books I'm even more excited for than the ones you guys are reading, because that's more of the genre spin, and those are the books I liked more from the one shot. So I'm really excited for those.
Yeah, that story in the one shot was really good for that one in particular. Yeah.
Then they got that like futuristic family or something like that.
Yeah,
one's coming out.
That one too. Yeah, that one's good. I can't remember what it was called, but yeah.
There's some really cool ones coming up, so I'm excited for that. Yeah. Joseph Gore asks, Kat, have you been reading Grommets? And this is for everybody. Perfect slice of life book. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. And like you said, it's a good slice of life book. I know, Mike, you've talked about it where you're like, I lived that. And for me, it's like, I didn't live that. So it's kind of interesting just to like see a peek behind the curtain of an era I didn't live in. So I'm enjoying it. I think it's pretty solid.
Awesome, man. I lived it. I was part of it. I did it. I experienced it. Like just everything that goes on, like totally brings you back to that time. And just like, I remember skipping school. I remember trying to, like, look at the girls and all that other stuff. I mean, all that stuff. It was just a lot of fun, and it's well written, and the art is well done. There's a lot of Easter eggs. Just a fun story overall.
Yeah, and honestly, slice of life is such a genre you don't get to see very often. So I like, especially in like monthly comics, you see it on like Webtoon and stuff. Yeah. We don't see it in comics, which is cool.
Yeah, typically a story like this would somehow involve some kind of alien or something like that, but this is just what it is, and it's a fun book, and it is very nostalgic. I remember the time too. I wasn't really in the movement, but I did try to skateboard. I just wasn't good at it. But my coordination wasn't on point back then. But it's definitely you can feel like if you experienced any of that, you can feel it in the story, and it's very
and real. It does a good job at taking you out of your world. I just feel like when any comic book does that, that's when it does its job and it takes you to that next level, Yeah.
Agreed.
Any comic book where you're just thinking about, oh man, is this almost over? Or what did I just read? Or, you know what I'm saying? It's not doing what it needs to do. And I feel like Grommets is one of those books where once you're in and you don't want to leave,
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's talk about Peter Parker hooking up with Shay, the Ravencroft.
That's her name?
Yeah. Shay. Yeah. So listen, I'm all for Peter getting some. That's me. But the way it happened.
He doesn't even get any.
He does. You don't know what happens afterwards. Right? You got Alfred. Issue, he will. You got Alfred.
He had to run away. That's what.
Them make out in front of him.
Alfred.
And then but the way he like kicks off the Rhino and what's her name? Speedball.
I always just call her. She's the bunny. She's like the bunny character, right?
No, she's the internet one. The internet.
Oh, you're right.
Highball, maybe.
Screwball. No, it is Screwball.
Screwball. It's something ball.
So he's like, listen, guys, you guys gotta go take it elsewhere because I want to do this and blah. No, to me, that's dumb. And they're not going to just walk away and be like, okay, we're going to listen to you. Come on, please.
And then they talked about the apps for the whole entire issue, which, okay, we talked about this, I think, months ago, where I was like, yeah, give us an issue about the apps. But I'm like, no, I want the apps with Peter, not with those two. I was like, give me that. And what I really disliked about this issue, because the reason I even said, let's see the apps, let's see something different from Peter. A, it's relatable to modern age. But then B, it's something different we haven't seen from Spider-Man. Finding a random person on the internet and being like, let's see if this date works out. This is everything we've ever seen with this character. It's like, cool, he has a new love interest has no personality. And like we have better love interests. You have Black Cat, you have Mary Jane, you even have freaking Harley. You have other characters that have existed that are more interesting than this. So it just was so boring.
And
I
like,
did not
I
like
think
it.
this is going to continue, you know? I mean,
hopefully not long, but
I like
just as a one-off. Yeah.
I mean, at least he went on a date. I mean, at the very least, he did that, you know, and he's trying to pursue something, but there's nothing here, I feel, in his run that is just going to stick at
Memorable,
all. Like nothing, you know.
No, I agree with that, and I'm not like judging this on the run or anything, but just like as a fun little issue to enjoy as like this filler issue in between. I actually had fun with it. I didn't feel like I wasted my time with it. And maybe I just had a different experience than you two. That's fine. I usually do.
That's okay.
When it comes to things like this. But I thought it was fun. And it was goofy, just the right amount of goofy. I think Rhino has had like this complicated relationship with Spider-Man that he would actually maybe react like that. So I thought that was fine. So yeah, and he got to actually have the date and not run off, and he realized that, hey, I got to stop this, thing that I always do. So I thought that was fun. Maybe the wrong girl to come to that realization with, but
exactly, like, yeah, the girl was
fun.
not interesting.
Yeah.
She was just kind of there. That's the part that I really disliked, where it's just no, it's cool that Peter's dating someone new. It's cool, but don't give me the same exact story with someone more who is less interesting than people you've introduced. Or again, give me a modern tale. Give me something about like he's trying these apps and it doesn't work, or does work. Like, give me, because that's something we've never seen with Spider-Man. Like, just give me something here that hasn't been done 12,000 times in a more boring light. But I like the art a lot. I thought the art was really, really good for this issue.
Yeah.
Besides Alfred.
Yeah. Alfred was in there, man. I thought it was hilarious. It looked just like him.
Tevye brings up a good point. She's basically the new Paul. She is, because Paul doesn't have a personality.
Yeah.
Maybe Shay and Paul will hook up.
There you go.
Go on a double date, and then all of a sudden we get love eyes. We get lovey eyes from each other, and then they're just like, oh, let's get back together. Nick Barucci from Dynamite. He said, I wanted to jump on and say hi to everyone and ask all the fans watching now to hit that thumbs up. It's a great way to support the show. Mike and all give us great hours of enjoyment. Likes are free. Support is priceless. Oh, thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Thank you for watching and taking the time. It's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Very
cool. And he's listening to me dog on Spider-Man, but it's just the honest truth though when it comes to it, But there is a book that came out. Was that this week or was that last week? I don't even know now. With the Venom War with the Nick Lane.
That was this week.
It was? Oh, okay. So
Venom War Spider-Man.
And also
Venom War Spider-Man. Yeah. You got Jackpot and Spider-Man, right? Working together. And I feel like that's just thrown together because they have to be together. It's like, oh, she's a hero, he's a hero, and now they have to work together. I don't know how many times I got to say this, but I'm just like, one of the biggest things that they weren't together was because she was not a hero. Now that she's a hero, they can be together. They can work together.
And the thing that was frustrating about that issue was that I'm actually cool with them having a team up. I think that'd be really fun because we haven't really seen a team up that's like a full issue. But they don't team up until the end of that issue. I also was pretty disappointed with that one. And someone is not following Venom War. So I was like, oh, I really don't get anything out of it. Because I'm like, I'm not following the event. I'm not getting anything from you. Loved it, Brent, didn't you?
I really did like that issue too. You so like opposite from you. I liked Venom War Spider-Man. Yeah,
That's funny.
But not because of the jackpot stuff. I liked the symbiote and Peter stuff. I
will agree with you 100%.
Okay.
Like, I like that part. Like, I liked the relationship between the two on how Peter is trying to hide his feelings from it. And then as soon as he sees Mary Jane, internally he's sad, and then the symbiote figures that out.
Right.
But once
Yeah.
Jackpot enters the play, I'm like, I hate that part. Like, I don't feel she needs to be in it.
Yeah, I understand that. I totally get that. That was the smallest part of the story for me. I was really into the Peter and symbiote thing, and then the art was really nice in the book as well. So, and I'm actually enjoying Venom more, even though I was not reading Venom at all and had no idea what was going on. I've actually liked the event so far. So,
gotcha. Okay. So there's our fill with Spider-Man. That took forever. Sorry, guys. But
that's Spider-Man's gonna take forever.
It's been a couple of months, so we gotta get it off our chest, man. So, but hey, Brant, I'm glad you liked it, man. So there you go.
Number 1 pick, Venom War Spider-Man. We'll find out.
So we're going to number 5 here. My number 5 was Moon Knight issue 8. Or Vengeance of Moon Knight issue 8.
Yeah.
So it's coming off the heels of the whole Blood Hunt. We get Mark Spector back, right? I love the team up between the Midnight Mission, and we get to see Tigra and 8-Ball, and you get to see Reese, and you get to see what's his name, the vampire guy. I forgot his name. Soldier.
Or Reese.
And you get to see them team up, and they're trying to stop the other vampires, and all of a sudden the sun rises, and they're like, "Oh my God, we can be in the sunlight." You know, it's like such a nice moment. But the artwork in this book is just so beautiful, and them seeing Mark Spector make his appearance again was really cool. And it's just a good time right now to jump on Vengeance of Moon Knight. So I really like this book.
Yeah, thank you, Comic Book Prince, for the kind comment. We're happy to be back, and a lot of great stuff to talk about.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Absolutely, for sure. As for Moon Knight, yeah, I felt the same way. It's like, I don't know. As long as Jed McKay's writing that book, I'm on board, no matter what the title of the book is, right? So, it's just, yeah, it's been a really good run, and now we had that, like you said, that little pocket of issues where Moon Knight was gone and they were dealing with the Midnight Mission. Then he comes back, and instead of, I like that moment where he was about to tell them what to do, and then he was like, "Nah, you guys got this." He just had total faith in his crew, and it feels like they formed like a little oddball family, which is, it's fun. It's a fun
right book. Yeah, it's a good book. All right, so what's yours?
Amazing Spider. No, I'm kidding. I didn't like it that much.
He's like, no, just kidding. It's gonna be my number 1.
No, actually, Venom War Spider-Man was my number 5, though.
Okay,
not your number 1, so that's okay.
Yeah, no, not my number 1. I did like the book.
Okay, let me ask you this: you like the weird Venom creature coming out of all the Hobgoblin people? Like, what the hell was that thing?
I don't know what that is. That was weird. I was just like focused on the Spidey and Venom symbiote thing. That's like all I loved about this issue, and that's all I could see. Everything else was just like icing on the cake. Yeah, right.
Right. I thought the artwork was pretty good. Some cool pinup pages and splash pages. Yeah, but
the art was really good. And yeah, we already talked about their kind of banter back and forth.
Right.
So, yeah, we can move on.
Let's see, Kat. What's yours?
Mine's Batman and Robin, actually, as we get to the end. I thought this was a stronger issue than what we've been getting, where we get to see a little bit of motion between Alfred's and Damian's past. And I like the ending where Damian becomes this Bane monster, which is poetic, because Bane's the person who killed Alfred. So I thought it was a pretty solid issue.
Cool. All right.
I did not read this, and I don't know why we all have marked this. Very good.
And everyone hasn't read it.
I'm still reading the series, but I missed last issue, so I didn't read this issue yet.
Oh, okay.
That's funny.
All right.
Okay. So this was the better issue, though. So
let's talk about this here. We got X-Men issue 2.
But I think we'll talk about everything except X Factor, because X Factor we'll talk about next. But we should talk about X-Men, and we'll talk about Uncanny X-Men, I think, here too.
Okay. So, what do you guys think of X-Men?
I like it. I think it's really solid. I like it more than the Krakoa stuff. I like this issue. But I think I do like Uncanny X-Men a little bit more, even though it's a team.
Yeah, I like Uncanny X-Men a lot more.
The art is really good. I think it's more emotional because what I dislike about team books a lot is when they throw a lot of people at you, and kind of X-Men does that, where it's like, here's Quentin Quire, here's this. Uncanny X-Men is a really slow build where it's just Rogue, Gambit, and Wolverine, and you're like, cool, I get to just see where they're at. And then the ending of Uncanny X-Men was really cool, where we get to see this new mutants that I think we're going to learn a lot about, where that's how you actually create new characters that can last a long time, is when you slowly introduce people. And again, the art is really good for this. But X-Men, I'm enjoying. I'm just not loving. I think it's like, oh, I'm glad I have this on my pull list, but I still don't know how to feel about it. NYX was really forgettable when I read it. I'll read the second issue, but every single time I try thinking about, let's talk about NYX, I can't even tell you what happened in that issue.
It's like my least favorite book.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you either. I was really disappointed with that one. But X-Men, I thought was pretty solid. I think this issue was a little stronger than the first, just because there was more action and stuff.
Agreed.
And have that character who's becoming a mutant as an adult, which I thought was interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's interesting, and I want to see where that goes. And you just a lot more like team banter and stuff, like, Quentin making Cyclops call him Kid Omega and stuff like that. Just more fun stuff in this issue, and I really like the art as well. So I think it's starting to find its footing, this book, but I'm enjoying it.
I'm not a huge fan of Stegman's art in this X-Men book.
It feels crowded.
I feel like it's very crowded. It doesn't have room to breathe. The characters look a little off. But he's not going to be the ongoing artist on this anyway. He's only on here for a short time, and then we're going to get a new artist on this. But I thought this story was better than issue 1. All for the reasons why you guys already talked about it. The Uncanny X-Men, I felt, had more heart and more emotion.
Definitely.
And I like that.
Me too.
And I like those characters a little bit better. So that helps also. But the one thing I didn't like about it was the new characters introduced at the end. I wasn't like, who are these new mutants? I'm like, who cares almost? Like,
I am excited only because of Gail. I have faith in her that she's going to do a really good job with them. And I saw cards that were being released on Twitter where they gave us like backstories of them. I'm like, cool. They seem like they're going to be like well thought out. Like she wants to really do. I'm hoping. I really am. It's just like the thing is like, we can't even get one issue without, hey, here are my characters. Like, just here's the regular characters. Here's a story, and that's it. It's just like, I don't know. It's just kind of weird for me. It's just like, I'm the same way with you, Kat. Like, you get thrown into all these characters. It just overwhelms me. I just like when you do one character at a time, it's easier to digest that way. And then, I don't know, you feel something for those characters, So I wish more team books would do that.
I thought Uncanny X-Men was like really good though. Mm-hmm. It was like near a perfect issue for me. I agree. The characters coming in at the end was like, okay, but you need that to hook, right? Like, who are these people? That kind of thing. So
I don't think I needed that for my
I think, I don't know. But anyway, that's the story they're telling. I like the threat of this looming darkness, right? That's coming in. We don't know what that is, what they're going to deal with, and all that stuff. So, but the heart of it with the characters they chose to focus on in this book, Wolverine, and like the classic costumes too. It looked more like the 90s costumes and stuff like that, and just
absolutely,
I don't know. It felt like X-Men to me.
It did. That was the
first
one
time in a long time. Yeah,
you're right, Brad. That's the one that feels like the X-Men the most.
Yeah,
which makes sense for it is more of the flagship, the Uncanny X-Men. And again, I said this earlier in the show, but I like that it doesn't forget Krakoa, but it also feels like it's old school, but it also feels like it's doing something new. So I like the vibe so far of these books.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's go. I want to talk about DC versus Vampires, World War V.
You can tell me what happened there, because I didn't read the last volume and I was lost. I was just like, this is not going to read
It's been a while since, obviously, it's been a while since the last volume came out. And when I was reading this, I'm like, man, what happened? And I don't think the book does a great job at re-explaining things. They try to do it within conversations, and it comes across very exposition heavy. And if you don't catch it, you're gonna miss a lot. You know what I'm saying? But it's basically a war between, vampires and humans, and there's this uneasy truce. I liked it. I thought it was okay. I thought that the artwork was decent. It's the same artist, I think, that did it last time. And but what I didn't like was the ending of that comic book, because I felt that particular character died too soon. It's a major character, and yes, it's a cliffhanger, but you're like, really? We went there right away with that? So I was kind of surprised at that they went there. Not sure what you think, Brant. Or
you didn't read this one?
No,
I read it, and I'm not reading more.
You were lost on it.
Yeah, no, I was completely lost. I just, there's too much going on. I didn't get it, if I'm being honest.
Totally understand. All right, so then we're gonna go with Geiger, issue 5. This book was tough, man. I mean, it was really good. Like, don't get me wrong. It was just like this electrician dude going after Geiger. You got Nate, the nuclear knight, trying to save him. Meanwhile, Geiger's trying to save Barney. And it was like so emotional, because it's like, your attachment to your pet, and you'll do it's like a child, and you'll do anything for your animal, right? Cat, dog, whatever it is. And you can't help to think, is this dog alive? Is it dead? Like, what's going to happen? And you get to see all these flashbacks when he had the dog at first, and it's like, oh man. And then you wind up seeing the end, and it's just like, you're just hoping and praying, is this dog still alive, And I was just like, man, it really tore at the heartstrings in here. But the electrician character was such an intriguing villain in this book. And I was just like on the edge of my seat. It was like just a really intense scene to a movie, So I really loved this issue.
Yeah, it was a good villain battle, right? Like,
yeah,
you're finally up against somebody that can match you when you're like this super powered person that nobody stands a chance against, but this guy has thought about everything and has the ways to beat you. So, and I like that he used, nobody's ever thought of this whatever the chemical was that he used to diffuse them and all that stuff. But yeah, it was a little heart wrenching with Barney, with the dog, and yeah. So I don't know what happened ultimately with that, because they kind of left it looked like maybe he died, but I don't know. But yeah, it was rough getting through.
I think he survived.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah,
it's like it was like flashbacks for me. It hadn't been that long, just a couple of years since I lost mine, and it's just like, man, that stuff stays with you.
And you can't help but feel for Tyreek, because that is like his
That's
family.
The only thing he had left.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sad, So
yeah,
really emotional book. All right, so let's see. We're gonna go on to our number 4. We'll go with Kat here. What's your number 4?
Mine is Sensational She-Hulk issue 10.
Last issue.
Pretty solid. Yeah, last issue. I thought it was a pretty solid way to end, but you could tell that she had so much more to tell, and she's like, all right, I gotta kind of wrap this up. But it's She-Hulk trying to balance it all. I loved the interaction with the Avengers. I thought that was a lot of fun, and this was, for me, a fun run. It wasn't a perfect run.
Guys.
Yeah. It wasn't a perfect run, but it had a unique voice. I love Rainbow's writing, and I thought it was a solid ending for a book. Again, I don't think was planned to be done.
No, if you read the write up she did, or Rainbow did at the in the back
at the end,
they said basically, I didn't want this to end, but I'm glad we got to tell the story that we did. So it was definitely planned for longer. But I did like the way that they finally interact with the Avengers, and she basically chose Jack and her friends in her practice over the Avengers, which I thought was a really strong choice for her.
But still part of the Avengers.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's I'm going to make priorities over here. I'm not going to let this run my life, kind of thing. So I like that. It was very human, and it wasn't just like, oh yeah, I'm a big superhero. It was a very human book, and it dealt with like the human issues. I know Mike didn't love like the love story aspect of it, and so I think it went on a little bit long, and we're still there. Like it's like but I like that. I like Jack didn't know where his place was really, even with the Avengers and stuff and all that history.
They did better in the end with it too. Like I think they balanced it pretty well in this issue, if I'm being honest.
Right. So I'm curious to see if that will pop up in other places and if we'll get to play with that at all, or if he's just going to disappear. We'll see.
Probably disappear.
Probably.
What was your number 4?
Mine actually was Geiger, so we just talked about that.
Nice. All right. I think Mike is coming back. If not, we will. Mike just came back now. So we did our number 4. I did She-Hulk, and Brent did Geiger for his number 4.
All right. So then we're going to talk about.
Do you have your number 4?
Did I do mine?
I don't
think so.
No. Ultimates.
Okay.
Yeah. Ultimates issue 3.
I said it earlier on the top. Still don't know how to feel about this series. I think it's interesting that they introduced Hulk with this female Hulk first. It's not my favorite, but I'm always a little intrigued to see where they're going to go with it.
It's like, I don't know. Ultimate Spider-Man is the only one that I'm really enjoying. I dropped X-Men. I'm on the verge of dropping Black Panther, and Ultimates I'm trying to hang on to just because it's, I like the characters, but at the same time, the story is not grabbing me yet. So we'll see what happens.
I just liked this story of course, they're still acquiring team members for their team.
Sure.
And then I like this story. You guys know how I feel about like apocalyptic situations. So I like the story of the downfall of this island where Banner actually was the one that said, hey, we're going to run these experiments. We'll pay for housing. We'll pay for this. We'll do this and that and that. And they said no. And he did it anyway. And now you wind up getting to see what has happened to all of these people that live there. And I know there's this 2 white pages in there with like lab notes and stuff like that. I actually read those pages, and they actually really like add to the story. At least it did for me anyway. And personally, I kind of liked seeing all the different types of characters that were there. And I felt bad for these villagers, and I felt bad for like, they wanted to recruit this She-Hulk, and Iron Lad's like, come on, you got an army of Hulks because they're going to be like you. And the next thing you see is they're all deformed and half of them died and everything else. And she's like making him feel like shit. And I was like, good, he deserves it, and that's what I liked about it, because it wasn't like, hey, just come join my team. And they're like, yeah, okay, fine, let's go, guys. There's a problem there. There's a ramification. These people suffered, Yeah. So I like that part.
I agree with you on that. I like that. I think the team building part of it is a little slow for me. I want to get to an actual story. I think is my problem with it.
I can understand that.
And the character work is like, they're trying to build mythos more than emotion. Although I think issue 1, they did a better job with that. I remember Wasp and Ant-Man, they did a pretty good job with.
Yeah, that was
ever since then, they haven't really.
Right. So again, this is a team book that's trying to put together a team that is, I don't know if maybe this methodically slow is the right way to do it, but I would rather do it this way than throw you 10 characters.
Yeah, sure. I agree with that. Yeah.
So
sure.
Team books are hard.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So now let's move on to Green Lantern issue 14. The Absolute Power tie-in. What do you guys think of this one?
This just missed my top 5 because it has to be connected to Absolute Power. We haven't talked about Absolute Power, and I think, Mike, you have been enjoying it. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. It's an event, and I feel like they've thrown so many tie-ins in these miniseries when we have just scratched the surface of what Absolute Power is and what Amanda Waller is doing. And I like a lot of the character moments here, though. I like Carol. She gets a time to shine. I like Hal. I think Jay gets not Jay. Alan Scott gets time to shine. So I like the way they balance all of that. But I think they're trying to tell their story of what they would have told without Absolute Power while having to tie into Absolute Power.
Yeah, I can see that. Not the strongest issue of Green Lantern, but it was still very solid.
And
And
it
I
tied
like
into the absolute the Task Force 7 book.
right.
Like they
Yes,
continued
yeah.
off of that.
Yeah. Where it took Alan,
Mhm.
the Amazo, it
Yeah.
tied into all that. So, and I liked that thread where he's kind of slowly kind of turning the opinion of this Amazo. So, and I like playing with that. But yeah, all those moments with those characters that you mentioned, Cat was really strong. I didn't love the backup story. Could have done without that.
I don't think
But
I read it. I don't remember
yeah,
what.
it
I didn't
was
read that one.
tying
I
into
didn't
the
read I
Shadow
didn't read that.
Lanterns.
Yeah.
It was forgettable.
What do you
But
guys think about this Sorrow Core?
I love it. I think it's so
I
fun.
think it's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's gonna be a really cool story for Carol too. So I'm all in.
Like I
Yeah.
want him to like gather a core where everybody is just crying.
Like
Like I think that would
a
be
lot of sad
hilarious.
people. A lot of
Oh
people
my
that just
God.
broken up with their partners, and that's the whole
Yeah.
core.
So
But
funny, man.
going to absolute power for just a second.
Yeah,
I really love like the main event of this.
I do too.
I think it's a really strong story. I think some of the tie-ins I could do without, and the Task Force book, I think it has strong issues, but it has really weak issues as well. Like this latest issue, I didn't love.
It really
The
has
Task
to
Force
do
7.
with who is involved. Like if you like the character,
Right.
read it. If you don't. That's what
Yeah.
I've been doing. Like I read the Carol issue because I like Carol. I didn't
Yeah.
read the Nightwing issue because I'm like, I got enough Nightwing. I don't need to read
Mm.
this. But yeah, I feel like with Absolute Power, it's too soon to tell for me, but it's a much better event than other events we've been getting because it does tell a story and it does affect things. So that feels nice.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's talk about X Factor issue 1. I really enjoyed this book.
Me
For
too.
me, this is my favorite X book personally.
Me
Really?
too, honestly.
Yeah.
I really like this book. And what I like about this is that I don't like X Factor. I've never liked X Factor in my life. And I did not expect to enjoy this book, but I love Mark Russell and I love Bob Quinn. So I was like, let's see what this is about. And this just reminds me of why I like Second Coming. It's just a big old joke. And why wouldn't you want to make fun of the X-Men? And this whole issue it's like a Suicide Squad style book, but for the X-Men. And it's really funny, but it's really personal. And I love this book too. I think it's fantastic.
I did really like it. It's not in my top 5, but it's like just outside of it. I really like the book too, and I can't remember if I posted my review or not, but I did a review. Whether it's up now or not, it'll be up soon. But I first of all, the Bob Quinn's art. I mean, it's Kill Your Darlings. I love the art. And Mark Russell, it's like he's one of those writers that I can take or leave. It depends on the story, and sometimes I really connect with it. Sometimes it's totally not my thing. But this was one of those that I felt like it was totally my thing, and I felt like the Mark always has a message in his books, but I felt like this one was very subtle, and it was not heavy-handed, which I appreciate. So
and it's a message about the public image, which is so interesting from a point of view of mutants and the X-Men. I can't wait to see where it goes, honestly, because of how it ends. Again, you start with all these people and then there's new people by the end.
Yeah. And the funny thing is like what was on the cover was different. What was introduced in the when you open up the book. And I didn't even realize that until after I read it. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, these guys are not even in this book. And just like, I love how they're experiencing superheroism for the first time. And they're like, man, we got this great mansion. And then, Angel's like, they're like, what's that sound? And Angel's like, yep, it's time to pay the rent. And then they wind up paying the price at the end. And it's just like, man, and then how quick they're replaceable. It's just like, who cares?
It's like I don't even know what I could compare it to, but it's just like, I don't know, cast changes for a reality show or something. It was just,
and that's
crazy.
That's what they're treating it like.
Basically,
they're treating it like it's just a show. Who's going to be killed off this week? That's basically what it is. But it's in the comic, it's real life. And then you got the whole new team that's there.
Yeah.
It was really good, man. That's what I love. I love how it just wasn't your traditional like X book. Here we
Right.
go. You know, it was something completely different, and I like
Yeah.
how for me it was original.
Yeah, it combined elements.
And
Okay,
I was gonna say, and that's so different for X-Men. How many times have we
Yeah.
forgotten the same thing for the X-Men? This is like the most unique X-Men book I've read in such a long time.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it combines like elements of the original X Factor, which were governmentally funded, with like Civil War era New Warriors, where they're much in the public eye with that reality show and all that stuff. So, very interesting, like different perspective on that kind of thing now, though. Whereas then it was like very much frowned upon, and now it's like, oh, you know, we're gonna cash in on this. And then that discussion between Polaris and Havoc I thought was really interesting, where Polaris was like, no, my name is not Lorna, it's Polaris. And then he leaves and it's like, my name's not Havoc, it's Alex. And it's just like different perspectives on where they stand with their heritage and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just really interesting.
So good stuff. I really enjoyed that one. Let's hope it keeps on keeping on.
Now I'm
all right.
kind of thinking I probably should have put it in my top 5. I
think it beat Venom War Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think you're right. Oh, well.
All right. Number 3. My number 3, speaking of X Factor, was X Factor.
Nice.
So there we go. So yeah, love that book, man. All right. And then let's see. Brant, what was yours?
Mine was Kill All Immortals issue 2.
Mine too, Brant.
Nice.
Yeah.
So have you read this book, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay,
I know. I really like it. I think it was, if I put it on my top 5, it would be like number 6. Like
gotcha.
All these books for me are pretty much like that I'm rating right now are pretty high rated. And I think when I rated Kill All Immortals, I think I gave it like, I think it was like an A- or something like that.
Yeah,
and I really liked the first issue. Yeah, it's solid, man. I really enjoy it. I like the character. I like the whole Viking thing. I like how she's immortal. I like how she takes on Thor in this particular issue. And now there's going to be this war between all of them. The art is good. It's gory. It's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I like this issue more than the first issue because
I
do just set up, and then this one's like, oh, we get to the war. My only nitpick for this book is I don't know why she likes this man and why she's lived for hundreds of years.
Right?
She's go into this guy that it's worth going to war with the family about.
Yeah. He could have been a little bit more likable. So we understand her reasoning, maybe.
Well, especially because it's not like her first love. I'm sure she's been with other people, so it's just like, why him out of all these people?
She's just head over heels for him, I guess. I don't know, but it just is interesting. And the beats, especially in this issue, were just really strong. And just like that last beat where she's just like, you don't understand. Now we're at war. And it was just like,
and the art
it's just
was
powerful.
So good for that.
Oh, the art is so beautiful.
Yeah, it's good.
So strong. Just, the right balance of like, kind of, I don't even know how to describe it, but like there's a lot of movement in the art, but it's very powerful scenery as well.
Yeah,
so,
I think it's interesting. We all picked that up, even though we weren't on the show together, because sometimes we like influence each other's pull lists. But this time around, what read it all.
Attracted me to this book originally was the cover, first off, and then it was a number 1, so I have to cover it on my show. And then when I read it, I'm like, wow, this is pretty damn good. I'm like, I can't wait to see what issue 2 is like. Then I read issue 2, and then we get into the whole battle, and I'm like, wow, this is even better than I expected. So let's hope that this one continues as well.
Yeah,
I actually like Zach Kaplan's writing a lot, which is why I picked it up. I usually just tend to like his stuff.
Yeah, I think it must have been like the cover or the concept or something. I probably like when I was doing Friday First, I came across it and was like, oh, that looks really interesting. That's probably what did it.
Yeah, the first cover was cool because she has her backside turned to you and she's got these big axes behind her.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what is this? Yeah.
And there's like blood and stuff everywhere on. Yeah. And the artist, I was familiar with the artist because I think he's done like some stuff for Comics Tribe, and I've heard like Tyler talk about FICO here and there. So I was like, oh, well, I recognize that. So it was like multiple things. It was like, okay. And then I read it and it was like, oh, this is good. So,
All right, so let's see. Now we talked about Batman and Robin, right? So we talked about that. Oh, here we go. Brent, like Spider Society
It's not in my top 5, but that makes you feel
issue
better.
1.
Not yet.
To me, this is just like any other Spider book. I mean, yes, there was action, but they did stand around, and there was standing around to the point where they had to make fun of themselves standing around. Like it was even pointed out in there,
But that's what I loved about it.
yeah,
That
but I
part.
was like, because they know it's true. They
I
know
know.
it's true. The
But
writer
that was the
knows
point.
it's all they do, and so the villains that were introduced, like a lot of them were from all these other stories that you've had to read to get. And wasn't the Green Goblin one from the What If story? Like, what if Green Goblin was Gwen Stacy? Wasn't that her?
No, I think it was from an actual. I want to say it was either a Spider-Gwen book or a Spider-Man 2099 book.
Yeah, it's one of those, I thought.
It was something like that. But no, these are such minor characters.
Right.
But I didn't like either the team, and I like Arana a lot. I think she's a cool character. But yeah, the team is not that interesting of characters.
It's the same. To me, it's all the same. Ever since the very first Edge of Spider-Verse, we get 1,000 characters. Yes, there's so many characters that they had to have the villains blow up half the other characters just so you can get the main ones to get some screen time or panel time. And then, okay, let's go to the mission at hand. Let's go find Spider-Man 2099. Let's go rescue him. And it's just like, I don't know. For me, I'm like, what are we going to do that's different this time? Like, you can only save the web of life so many times, right? It's just very repetitive. It's very repetitive.
So, overall, I agree with you, right? Like, I've had the same opinions about the Spider-Verse stuff, and I'm not, like, in love with the Spider-Verse and all that stuff. I did think it was interesting that they are trying to tie it into the movie verse by bringing Spider-Woman in. So that was interesting, at least. I thought it made sense that you didn't have the heavy hitters because the villains took the heavy hitters off the playing field. So I thought that made sense. I like that they made fun of themselves for what they typically do, which is stand around. And there was a lot of action. Sinister Squadron is expanded Sinister Six, which is a classic Spider-Man villain. So that kind of I don't know. I just had fun with it. I'm not saying I'm going to love this series or I'm going to enjoy like the story they're telling, but for this issue in and of itself, I had fun with it. And I thought it was stronger than the starts of any other Spider-Verse story that I've read. For me personally, that's all.
I think Tevye says, and also Mayday Parker got no pages in this book. I didn't know she was supposed to be in it.
Mayday Parker, though, I can tell you was in Spider-Boy, though. I can tell you.
Was she actually?
Yes, she was.
Oh, man, that's interesting. What did she do?
And that's what happens when you don't read Spider-Boy now.
Spider-Boy I'll read those pages.
I'm telling you, is a very underrated book. I think it's a very good book. And I felt that Spider-Verse story was actually better than Spider Society because it wound up fixing the problem with Bailey Briggs about everyone not remembering him. Oh. And it gave you that whole backstory. So now supposedly that is fixed and everyone is going to remember who he actually is.
Speaking of Bailey Briggs, an adult Bailey Briggs was in the Venom book.
I heard Dan Slott was really upset about it because he's like, never planned that for the character. Yeah, he's like, that's what happens when you work for like a big 2 company is this you don't make the creative choices. He's like, everything I've ever planned for Bailey was 2 things I never wanted to happen to him was I never wanted to see him as adult and I never want to see a love interest for him. And supposedly both of those things happened. He's like, that's not what I wanted.
The Venom War book, the Venom book itself for me was a little. It's just like Cable.
It was very Cable-like. Yeah.
All right, so let's go to number 2. My number 2 is a book we talked about, which was actually Transformers issue 11. That was my number 2 this week.
Cool.
And Kat, what was yours?
Mine was Primer chasing Colors. I've been really liking this Primer book. I think it's a really good example of doing an origin story for a character that's familiar but different. So she's an orphan. We've seen that a billion times, but her power is that she uses these colors to get different powers, and then in between this, she's teaming up with the Teen Titans. Teen Titans doesn't really want her, and she makes this new friend that she has that's kind of like a little bit of a bully. But she's like, oh no, she's a good person. Then you find out it's Deathstroke's daughter. So there's a lot of cool things happening. If you want an original character from DC or Marvel and you're looking for just a fun book, I recommend Primer. It's been a pretty solid series.
Nice. Cool. Real quick, Tevye, Dylan, it was an adult Dylan, an adult Bailey, and an adult Normie. So they were all three in it.
Yeah.
All adults.
And there's female in there too.
Yeah, I just can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
Oh, like an older Liz Allen.
Yeah, something like that.
I think so.
Like a granny Liz Allen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, they were all old. Could have been like the Golden Girls or something, man.
Maybe it was.
Gee whiz.
Any more indie recommendations for this week? I think Geiger and Kill All Immortals are probably the two big ones for indies that we recommended.
Yeah. And my number 2, which is The Domain, which is a spinoff of Public Domain by Chip Zdarsky. So
I didn't know you were reading that book.
Yeah,
I didn't know either.
Yeah, so I decided to keep reading it because I heard about this series, The Domain, the spinoff. And I thought it was really interesting because the comic that they're creating inside Public Domain now has its own series as The Domain. So it's the comic that they're writing in that book has come to life. So it's pretty interesting. And it's like an updated version of what they were doing in their Golden Age story. So the sons are involved now. I know you guys read the first issue or first couple issues of that book, right? A Public Domain.
I did, and then they came out with
So now his sons are writing this book or creating this book, and now this power is shared between 3 people in this actual spinoff. So it's the story of that, how they find the technology and they're sharing the powers and stuff. So I'm enjoying it so far. Second issue, and it's interesting because it's very like classic origin, like Power Pack comes in contact with the alien and gets all these powers. So it's kind of like that, but they're like college age or just past college age, and only one of them can use the power at a time. And if one of them uses it while the other one's using it, their power disappears, and it's really interesting. So
glad you're enjoying it. And see, another indie to recommend.
Yeah.
All right. So then we all did our number 2. So now we're going to go to Gotham City Sirens. This is a book that I'm not reading.
I don't think you need to. I don't think it's a bad book, but I don't think it's a book that's like, wow, I can't believe you're not reading that.
Yeah.
The artwork is solid.
I kind of figured that, though.
Yeah, I like that team, which is why I'm reading it. Like, I enjoyed their dynamic, and I thought it was interesting that they're fighting Punchline. Punchline's running like a Logan Paul-esque energy drink company, which is weird, but other than that, I think it's a fine series.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think it's Sorry, I lost track because I was reading a comment. I totally lost.
Gotham City Sirens.
Yeah, Gotham City Sirens. I think it's fun, and I like the characters too. It's not what I expected going into it, but at the same time, I also like Punchline, and it's just kind of it's goofy without being too over the top. And like I compared it to like Punchline brought Westworld into Gotham and then just kind of did weird things with it. So that's basically what it is. But it got very humoristic in this issue with like Catwoman falling asleep on a half naked cowboy's butt and stuff like that. So I don't know if I'm going to continue with it, but it's fun for what it is. So.
It's only like 5 issues and it's a weekly series. I think for a weekly series as really decent art and it's a fine enough story.
Yeah.
So I'll continue it. I'll finish it out.
I didn't realize there was ongoing issues.
Yeah, it's a mini series and it's weekly. That's why I'm like, because it's so short, I'd continue. If this was I'll continue. only issue 1, and there was like going to be 15 issues, I would have dropped it last issue. But it's it's a fun little thing to read every week.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool. And let's finish off the top 5 with our number ones. And my number 1 was a book that both Brant and I already talked about, and that was Geiger for me. All right, Kat, what was yours?
Mine was X Factor. So we already talked about it. I was really surprised by it.
And mine was Transformers.
Yep. Cool deal. Awesome. So now we're going to pass it along to Brant, and we're going to talk about our most anticipated for the week, the top 3.
Yeah. So we already mentioned there's a bunch of books coming out this week. So let's see. We'll start with Jenny Sparks, because I know nothing about this. This is one of yours, Kat.
Yeah, new Tom King book. It's a UK hero from DC Comics that he's making a book from. And I'm like, again, I was really surprised with Wonder Woman. So I want to see what he does with this hero I know nothing about. So I'm interested. And art always is really good. You're going to get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to pick it up. I just didn't know anything about the character or anything. So
I'm
intrigued.
Yeah. I'm also going in blind. I got no Jenny Sparks history here.
I'm very intrigued, though. So Power Rangers Infinity is on both mine and Kat's. So
this is Sam Humphries, who we have not seen in a long time.
Right. And an interesting story, too. It's like nothing like what we've been reading. So I'm very curious to see, like, it's still in like with multiverses, right? So
yeah, and it's like a humor book. It's the same artist who did Crowded, the same 2 artists. So I'm all in. I love Sam Humphries. He's one of my favorite writers. So I've longed for his writing again. So I'm excited to see his name pop up for a franchise I obviously love.
Speaking of Crowded, I just watched a movie on Amazon Prime with John Cena called Jackpot. Have you heard of this?
I heard of it, but I haven't seen the movie.
I swear, like, part of the concept was straight from Crowded.
Maybe it was based on the comic.
Yeah, instead of like crowdfunding, it's like in the state of California, if you win the lottery, everybody has 24 hours to kill you and claim your prize. But if you make it through the day, then you get the prize. It's weird. I don't know. Anyway, it reminded me of Crowded.
You guys hear me okay? Because my AirPods died. So.
Yeah, I had to switch to my headphones. Yeah, we can hear you. All right. So let's see. Next up, we got Nightclub 2, number 1, which is on both mine and Mike's. It's the Middle World series now at Dark Horse, and it's following up from Big Game. Now that they're back, and now they've split. They're not together anymore, and they're forming rival vampire gangs.
Yeah, man, because that one is jealous from the other one that took his girl or whatever it is. Yeah. So now he feels like he can be the big bad one. I'm excited for it, man. The only crappy thing is it's not $1.99 anymore. The first volume was $1.99 an issue, but nevertheless, though, I think this story is going to be great, man. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, the first volume was really good, so I'm looking forward to it as well. All right, so Ultimate Spider-Man is the last one because it's on all. No, there is one more after that, but Ultimate Spider-Man's on all 3 of our lists. So obviously, we're getting into Kingpin Sinister Six.
Yeah,
that's going to be introduced here. So
yeah, I mean
it's cool.
It's also just Spider-Man, so of course we're excited.
Yeah. And it's just like there's a variant cover that tells you who the Sinister Six characters are because they're on the cover. So
of course,
if you get that cover, then you'll know who they are. So pretty cool. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say the next comic was really close to being in my top.
Yeah. So Wolverine Revenge, very anticipated. Greg Capullo. So yeah, it's we're all gonna read it, of course. So
yeah, Jonathan Hickman too.
Yeah,
and I'm buying the Red Band edition. Baby.
I think I'm probably only getting the Red Band edition. I don't think I'll get.
I'm buying both editions, and there's probably. I mean, I think after reading the Blood Hunt, how there wasn't much difference. And then after reading, I read the Werewolf by Night one that came out this past week. for that to be polybagged was an absolute joke. That thing was not even close to being violent compared to some of the other books that we read from Marvel. I mean, listen, if you're going to put explicit content, polybag it, make it for 18 and older, and then you're going to bleep out the curse words in it, like, come on, man. Like, no, I'm sorry. Like, that's not it for me. It's just
that's all it was.
Which is interesting because
Just
they
the
had
curse
books
words,
like
yeah.
Alias, which had sex and
Yeah.
vulgar. It's like, why don't you make it?
They don't have anything. It's just
Yeah.
you see what's his name? Jack Russell just tearing up some squid-like creature, and there's blood flying everywhere on a panel. And then there's one page where we get to see this vampire dude like smashing some guy's face. And honestly, I'm not joking. Like, that really is about it. And you see more than that. Like, if you read Sabretooth War, right?
Oh yeah.
There was a ton of stuff in that. There was no polybag. There was none of that. The Fury book that's out right now, that book's not polybagged, and that thing is very violent. There's a lot more violent stuff than what I just read this week. So I am so curious. I am very curious what they will do with this Wolverine book. I hope it is. I hope they put a lot of blood and violence in this book. I really do, to make it worth it.
It's like I was looking at there's like one of the covers where he's like in the mouth of the dinosaur or whatever. The red band edition, it's red blood like stuff, and on the regular one it's green. Yeah, it's like, okay, whatever.
Right. We'll so we'll be curious to see what's different. I'm excited. I just want to have that conversation and see if they did it with this one on top of it.
Yeah. That's it. That's all I anticipated.
Nice. So that means we're done with the show.
Yeah.
We are.
First show going over 2 hours long, man. We know that this show next week won't go that long. So
I'm not even on next week. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. So Kat's not here next week. But Brant,
by the way, Kat's not here this next week.
I won't be here next week, but I'll be back the week after.
Yeah, but Mike and I,
we'll be on, guys. So
still hold the fort down. Yeah, please.
But so thank you so much for watching this season premiere of Comic Book Weekly. Remember,
we're back weekly now, so we're not back monthly. We are back weekly.
Yes, we are. Yep, my job is now back to normal, so everything is back to normal again. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for all the comments, all your participation. Thank you so much. Critical Entertainment, always much appreciated. Dynamite Comics, Nick Barucci, thank you so much for the super chat. Guys, thank you for your participation, the likes, the thumbs up, all that great stuff. And we will see you next week. Kat won't, but she'll see you in 2 weeks. Guys, remember, support, like, thumbs up, all that crap. We'll see you guys later. Take care. Have a new comic book day. Good night, everybody.